Alright, so picture this, Jens. I'm going to do the announcement, and then you have like this epic Year of the Mammoth like thing burst onto the screen like wapow. Yeah? Welcome to the Year of the Mammoth. So this is going to be the second time that sets rotate for a new year. So the current standard format features 6 sets that you all know and love: Blackrock Mountain, Grand Tournament, League of Explorers, Whispers of the Old Gods, One Night in Karazhan, and Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, along with the always available basic and classic card set. So once the Year of the Mammoth officially hits, the first 3 sets, or in other words, the sets of 2015 are going to rotate out, which are Blackrock Mountain, the Grand Tournament, and the League of Explorers. So the new standard set is going to be Whispers of the Old Gods, One Night in Karazhan, and Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, along with the new expansion, Secrets of Angora. So we all knew that, so what's new about the announcement? Turns out that some cards in the classic set are going to get rotated out. First card is Azure Drake. If you've played Hearthstone, you've seen Azure Drake all over the place. It wasn't in every deck, but it was in a lot of decks. And now, finally, it gets rotated out. Azure Drake has card draw attached to it. Having neutral card draw be this powerful for every single class is probably a bit too much. I would argue that a well-designed card for neutral that draws a card would be Gnomish Inventor. Gnomish Inventor, a card that saw play occasionally in decks that really wanted to draw for it, but otherwise not seen as prevalently as Azure Drake. Sylvanas and Ragnaros are both getting rotated out for pretty much the same reason. You might be a little bit surprised by Sylvanas because she is not actually being run in that many decks currently, but their reasoning is that they're going to print Death Rattle cards that you can build around, and apparently Sylvanas would be too powerful in that, so they have to rotate out Sylvanas in order for Standard not to have a bunch of Sylvanas. So that's a little bit of forward thinking. Ragnaros the Fire Lord is a really strong 8-mana minion, and their reasoning for rotating out Ragnaros is it's very difficult to find another 8-mana card to replace Ragnaros to put into your deck. It's usually, what should I put in the 8th drop? Ragnaros. Is this card better than Ragnaros? No, we'll just go with Ragnaros. And it's unhealthy for a game in the classic set to have a card that's like the most powerful. The RNG Ragnaros of whether or not it hit a minion or the face was also a big deal. And I think it's good that these coin flip situations will come up less often. For class cards, Warlock loses Power Overwhelming. Yes, you see a lot of Leroy Power Overwhelming Faceless Manipulator combos out there right now, but that's 11 mana and only made possible because of Thaurissan. One can only theorize that with Thaurissan getting rotated out, that perhaps there will be another card printed which will also reduce mana costs, which would mean that Power Overwhelming is apparently the culprit to go, because Leroy, Power Overwhelming, and Faceless are all in the base set. I'm sure it was a consideration to get rid of Leroy. However, Leroy enables like aggressive decks, and I would argue that Leroy is also iconic, and it's probably for the best that it doesn't go yet. Maybe next year. Ice Lance. Freeze Mage is a cool deck, but the thing is, it has had a very long run, and yes, we haven't seen it in a while, but with rotation, you could actually see it come back. And the main problem with Freeze Mage is that it's eternal, in the sense that over 20 of the cards that are in the Freeze Mage deck continue to be in the Freeze Mage deck. And it's not uncommon to see Freeze Mage decks using like 26 cards from the basic and classic set, and that is a problem. Also, according to the Hearthstone team, Ice Lance prevented them from making powerful spell damage cards and designs that allowed you to duplicate your cards, because 1 mana deal 4 damage is insane, and 1 mana cards getting affected by spell damage is also insane. So that all makes sense. And finally, Conceal is getting rotated into the Hall of Fame. Of all the cards that they could have rotated out, you might wonder why Conceal and why not gadgetzan Auctioneer, because Auctioneer is the engine that drives everything. The thing is, Conceal is the card that makes it non-interactive. Having Auctioneer be played and then playing a flurry of spells, that's kind of cool. That is a skill testing deck, and I, for one, appreciate gadgetzan Auctioneer being around. Conceal, though, you can argue to be not very interactive, not very fun and interactive. So these 6 cards get rotated out of standard into a set called the Hall of Fame set. Anyone with these cards will get a full refund, and you don't even have to disenchant them. You're just gonna get the dust, and you'll still have these cards available for play in Wild. The motivation for this is to cement the classic set as a safe place to buy packs, because it's always going to be in the game, or when it rotates out, you're going to get a full dust refund for it anyways. And you can still use the cards for Wild, so double value. And they're promoting Wild a bit. By the way, this does create a strategy that you can do, where if you don't own Ragnaros, it would be a good idea to craft Ragnaros, a golden Ragnaros even. That means that when standard rotates, then you'll get 3,200 dust, and then you can disenchant your golden Ragnaros for 1,600 dust for a freebie 1,600 dust. That's value. The other big announcement is in 2017, we're not going to get the usual 130 card expansion adventure and then 130 card expansion timeline. Instead, much to the glee of deck builders and players, probably, we're going to get 3 130 card expansions. That means there's no more adventures. However, every single expansion is also going to include single player missions. This is a good change in my mind because it turns out when adventures came out, the metagame didn't change that much, because it turns out that 40 or 50 cards isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. It's not really going to tilt the meta that much. Blizzard has kind of tried to make adventure cards generally more powerful in the past. You saw that in League of Explorers. A lot of the Explorers saw play, so it was a particularly impactful adventure. Even then, it's not as impactful as an expansion generally, and with 3 expansions, we're going to see a lot more changes throughout standard. And that's good, because changes mean the game feels fresher. So that's the Year of the Mammoth upcoming. Also cool is just before the launch of the expansion, there's going to be some daily login rewards offering dust, gold, and expansion packs, as well as a few other surprises apparently. And when the Year of the Mammoth begins and the new expansion rotates in, for players who win 10 games of Hearthstone in standard ranked or casual mode, they will be joined and obtain the new rogue hero, Maiev Shadowsong.
Vengeance is all I have left.
Very sneaky warden and a very powerful force.